Welcome to the new video. In this recap, in Taiwan, Lucy meets her boyfriend Richard in front of a fancy restaurant, and he begs her to deliver a briefcase to the owner of the establishment. He explains that although the briefcase contains only some strange papers, he will receive a payment of over $1,000 in cash. Upon hearing this, the woman decides to leave, as she does not want to get involved in this kind of thing. Trying to convince her, Richard prevents his girlfriend from leaving and says they can split the payment between them. However, the woman stands her ground and orders him to do it alone, since he is the one who usually gets involved in those suspicious activities. The man reveals that he has had some disagreements with the people there. During the conversation, Richard takes advantage of their proximity to handcuff the briefcase to his girlfriend's wrist and says that to free herself, she must get the key from Mr. Zhang, the restaurant manager. The woman then scolds the man for his cowardly attitude, and knowing that she has no choice from now on, she goes to make the delivery. Upon receiving the visitor, the receptionist says that Mr. Zhang wants to know the woman's name, otherwise he cannot serve her. Lucy introduces herself with her real identity, and the man asks her to wait until the boss comes down. Seconds later, the woman sees a group of strange men approaching, and when she looks back, she sees Richard being shot outside. At the same time, the restaurant staff behaves strangely, and after handing over money to the criminals, the receptionist hides under the counter. Soon after, the men take Lucy to the roof of the building, being avoided by everyone who crosses their path, as if everyone knows who they are. Upon arriving at the apartment, the criminals spread out, and as soon as she comes across the lifeless body of an innocent person, Lucy begins to feel sick, as she is in a state of panic. To control the situation, the men take their prisoner to the large table and give her a handkerchief so she can clean herself up. At that moment, Mr. Zhang appears in the room covered in the blood of his victims. After washing his hands there, the man approaches his prisoner and orders his subordinates to put her on the table to talk to him. However, Lucy does not know the language the criminals are speaking, and to solve this, Mr. Zhang calls one of his translators, who assists in communication between them. In a panic, the woman explains that she has no idea what is going on and claims that it is all a misunderstanding. The mobster then asks what is in the suitcase, and Lucy replies that she knows nothing about it, since Richard had asked her to just deliver it, without even explaining what it was. So, Mr. Zhang hands the woman a piece of paper with the combination for the suitcase and goes outside the apartment, while his security guards form a barrier with some shields. Concerned, Lucy asks why they are doing this, and the translator explains that his boss does not trust Richard, so he is protecting himself. Soon after, the rest of the men pressure the woman to open the briefcase, while Mr. Zhang yells at her to hurry up, as he has other things to take care of. With no choice, Lucy enters the combination and opens the briefcase, revealing some packages and plastic bags containing a blue substance. Realizing that the delivery is not a threat, Mr. Zhang goes back into the apartment, and while opening the packages, he orders his men to bring one of the prisoners. Seconds later, the security guards return with a man, who is forced to use the mysterious compound. As soon as the blue stones enter his bloodstream, the prisoner writhes in despair, and soon after, he begins to laugh uncontrollably. At that moment, the crime boss eliminates the man with a gunshot and approaches Lucy, saying he wants to offer her a new job. However, the woman remains frightened and says she does not want to work with them. Upon hearing this response, Mr. Zhang's security guard approaches and punches Lucy. Sometime later, the woman wakes up in a room and is confused when she realizes she has a huge bandage on her stomach. While the prisoner tries to figure out what is happening, she is surprised by the criminals, who take her to Mr. Zhang's office. Upon arriving at the location, the woman is greeted by the translator, who reveals that they will use her body to transport some packages of the compound, which is called CPH4. At that moment, other prisoners appear being carried by security guards, and the translator explains that they will receive passports so they can pass through airports without difficulty. Once they make the deliveries, the prisoners will be able to continue with their lives as normal, and before they think about escaping, the criminals have the details of all their family members. After that, the prisoners are released to begin transporting the prohibited compound, and Lucy arrives at one of the hideouts, where she is taken to a room so that the packages can be removed from her stomach. The criminal then begins to humiliate the woman, who reacts to his behavior by ordering him not to touch her. The problem is that this attitude only angers the man even more, who attacks Lucy with several blows. After that, the criminal is taken out of the room by his accomplice, and thanks to all the attacks she took, Lucy begins to writhe on the floor, as the package with the compound has broken. With this huge amount of blue crystals being absorbed into her bloodstream, the woman loses control, while her body begins to levitate, ending up on the ceiling of the cell. Terrified, Lucy tries to hold on and runs against the wall to prevent her body from continuing to rise. Shortly after, Lucy wakes up again, following the episode caused by the compound absorbed by her body, and waits until one of the guards enters her cell. Quickly, the woman makes a move to knock the man out, and after grabbing his gun, she sets out to escape from that place. As she approaches the exit, which appears to be a restaurant, Lucy encounters the criminal who had attacked her a few hours earlier, and without wasting any time, she eliminates everyone present there. Before leaving, the woman eats the food left on the restaurant table and goes to a pair of taxi drivers, asking if either of them can speak her language. When they answer no, one of the employees is eliminated by a shot from Lucy, who orders the other man to take her to the city hospital. Wanting to avoid the same fate as his friend, the taxi driver obeys the woman's orders, and upon arriving at the hospital, she goes straight to the operating room. Noticing that a random person has just invaded a restricted area, the surgeon says she can't be there and asks the woman to leave. However, Lucy ignores the doctor and looks at the patient's tests on the wall. Somehow, the woman manages to use her new abilities to analyze the images of the patient's brain, allowing her to discover that he can no longer be saved, as his condition has reached the stage of metastasis. Lucy then finishes off the patient with a shot, and after throwing the body on the floor, she orders the surgeon to remove the packages that were implanted in her stomach. Realizing that he has no choice but to comply, the doctor prepares his instruments to begin the procedure and states that he will need to administer anesthesia. However, Lucy says that this will not be necessary, and while the man performs the surgery, she decides to call her mother. The woman says that something seems to have happened to her head, and besides being able to feel everything that has happened in her life, she says she misses her family very much. After that, Lucy ends the call, and as soon as she removes the package with the compound, the doctor asks what it is, because he can only help her properly when he knows what they're dealing with. Upon hearing that the blue crystals have been named CPH4, the doctor is surprised and explains that this is a substance produced by pregnant women in their 6th week of pregnancy. For a human baby, even a minimal amount of these substances has the power of an atomic bomb, and it is what helps create all the bones in its body. Finally, the doctor states that if Lucy really has a large amount of these crystals absorbed into her bloodstream, it is a miracle that she is still alive. Realizing that she may not have much time to resolve all this, the woman leaves the hospital, and outside, she realizes that she can see the composition and structure of all the plants around her. After that, Lucy heads to Mr. Zhang's building and walks quietly through the corridors, using silenced pistols to eliminate all the guards who cross her path. Upon arriving at the tycoon's office, the woman orders the tattoo artist to leave and approaches the criminal, striking a pair of knives in his hands. Soon after, Lucy uses her new abilities to read Mr. Zhang's memories, and thanks to that, she discovers where each of the other prisoners were sent to sell the crystals. She then decides to leave the mobster in that place, and the man screams in despair as his hands remain trapped by the knives. Hours later, Lucy goes to the house of Caroline, her close friend. After talking for a few minutes, Caroline tells her friend to make herself comfortable, as she needs to take a shower, and asks to use the computer in the house. Thanks to this, Lucy has access to all the work of a professor named Norman and his research on unlocking the human mind, and decides to contact him by hacking into the television at the hotel where he is staying so they can see each other. The woman explains that she has recently gained superhuman abilities because her body has absorbed a dangerous amount of CPH4, causing her brain capacity to reach 28%. In addition, Lucy says she doesn't know how many hours she has left to live, but as she is sure that her end is near, she needs help to solve this problem. However, Norman doesn't know what to say, since his years of study have never gone beyond theory, and he never imagined that anyone could have so much control over their brain in this way. The woman then replies that she can also control other people's bodies and minds, along with magnetic and electrical waves. To prove this, Lucy interferes with the functioning of all the devices and appliances around the hotel room, and concludes by saying that she cannot feel pain, fear, or any other human emotion. Thanks to this, the mutant claims that her mind is filling up with all kinds of knowledge, and she is lost as to what to do. Wanting to help her, Norman explains that the best thing Lucy could do is pass on all this wisdom, since no other human being would be able to reach this potential. At the end of the conversation, the woman says she will be at the hotel to meet him in about 12 hours. After that, Lucy prints a prescription for her friend and suggests that the woman take care of her health, since part of her body is getting sick due to her poor diet. Sometime later, the mutant changes her appearance so she can go unnoticed, since her real face is all over the news, which is reporting on the attack in the operating room. Soon after, Lucy goes to a payphone to contact Pierre, the police detective, and using her psychic abilities, She provides all the information about the prisoners who are transporting the substance. Realizing that the woman on the line seems to be fully aware of where he is and what he is doing, the man decides to obey her and writes down the information she provides. Now that she has begun her plan to stop Mr. Zhang's criminal transport, Lucy leaves the scene, and the police go in search of the hostages. Within a few hours, the authorities are able to arrest almost all of the CPH-4 transporters, but one of them becomes nervous during the approach and tries to escape. However, the police do not allow this to happen and capture him in a matter of seconds. Meanwhile, Lucy boards a flight to Paris, and during her trip, she uses her mutant abilities to obtain millions of pieces of information from 2 laptops simultaneously. At that moment, the woman realizes that her brain capacity has just reached 40%, and thanks to that, she begins to collapse, as her cells recognize that her body is not conducive to survival. This causes Lucy's teeth to start falling out, while her skin begins to dissolve into the air, as if it were slowly disintegrating. Terrified, the woman gets up and runs toward the bathroom stall, pushing all the flight attendants out of her way. After locking herself in the stall, Lucy watches her face melt away in the mirror, and in a panic to undo these side effects any way she can, she decides to ingest a little more of the CPH-4 crystals. However, this does not solve anything, and a few seconds later, the woman ends up having her body dematerialized at a molecular level. At the police station, Pierre receives Lucy's belongings on his desk, and at the same time, the woman regains consciousness on a stretcher in one of the rooms and feels that her brain capacity has now reached 50%. Noticing that Lucy has woken up, the doctor rushes to alert the police, who gather around her in the police station hallway. Without wasting any time, Pierre orders the woman to stand still and put her hands up, but she ignores the command and knocks out everyone in the room with a simple movement. In shock, the police officer remains paralyzed and has his ammunition removed, leaving him completely defenseless against Lucy. The woman then asks where the packages are, and Pierre replies that they have all been stored at the police station, but she says she will take them, as the shipment will be safer with her. After that, Lucy leaves the police station with the investigator, and using her new powers, she tracks down the location of Mr. Zhang, who is talking to one of his subordinates on his cell phone. Wanting to prevent the mobster from leaving the country, the woman pushes Pierre into the passenger seat, takes the wheel, and drives off toward the airport. Meanwhile, Mr. Zhang's other henchmen go to the city hospital, where doctors are treating the victims they had captured. The men quickly split up to storm the room, and after eliminating the staff, they take their hostages once again. At the same time, Lucy drives at full speed through the streets of Paris, dodging all vehicles with perfect precision. Trying to prevent their criminal scheme from being interrupted, Mr. Zhang's subordinates begin to remove the packages from the prisoners' bodies, and at that moment, one of them claims that he is not feeling well. Without thinking twice, the leader eliminates the man with a shot to the head, causing the other prisoners to panic. As they drive to the hospital, Lucy notices that they are being followed by police cars, and Pierre says he can give the order for them to stop chasing them. However, the woman says that won't be necessary and controls the street security pillars so they can cross the neighborhood. Soon after, Lucy activates the devices again, causing all the cars to collide in a chaotic accident. At the hospital, one of the police officers returns to the doctor's room to check on the detained men. Surprised by the criminals, he tries to react and fires at them. Thanks to this, the officer manages to eliminate some of the gangsters, but is also hit in the process, and upon hearing the sounds of gunfire, the other doctors flee from the scene. In a panic, one of the hostages tries to run, but is easily eliminated by one of the criminals, and at that moment, Lucy appears. To control the situation, the leader of the gangsters recovers the remaining packages of CPH-4 and leaves, ordering his subordinates to eliminate the woman. As she prepares to confront the criminals, Lucy feels that she has reached 60% of her brain capacity and manages to create an invisible barrier that prevents the leader from leaving. Soon after, the mutant pulls everyone's weapons toward the ceiling, and furious, the mobster yells for his men to attack their enemy with their bare hands. Despite being unarmed, Lucy is not intimidated and walks toward the leader, using her powers to levitate the henchman. After that, the woman recovers the briefcase from the hands of the mafia boss, who is paralyzed, and before they leave, she collects the last package from the body of a prisoner. Shocked by all this, Pierre says he doesn't know if he will be of any use in Lucy's mission, but she says she needs him and gives him a surprise kiss. Convinced, the investigator decides to accompany the woman, and together they leave to find Norman at the university, where the professor has met with some of his more experienced colleagues to discuss her case. At that moment, the woman senses the presence of the mobsters approaching and asks Pierre to protect the room while they discuss the situation. Lucy then begins to explain everything she has come to understand with her superintelligence, and the professors are impressed. At the same time, Mr. Zhang invades the university with a huge army, which roams the corridors, eliminating everyone in their path. Realizing that they will not be able to hold them off for long, Pierre runs to alert Lucy, who decides to begin the procedures that will bring her to 100% of her brain capacity. So, she hands the CPH4 packets to the researchers, who begin to prepare them to use the compound in her body. Concerned, Norman asks if this is really necessary, since so much knowledge could overload Lucy's mind, but the mutant assures him that this will not happen. In addition, the woman promises that she will transfer everything she knows to a computer and find a way for Norman to access it. Believing that Lucy knows what she is talking about, the man continues with the procedures, and outside, Pierre ambushes the criminals with the help of the other police officers. However, Mr. Zhang decides to shoot anyway, starting a big confrontation, where Pierre ends up getting hit and runs for cover. At the same time, Lucy reaches 70% of her brain capacity, and her body begins to transform into a kind of evil organic matter that spreads throughout the room, absorbing everything around it. Soon after, the room around the professors is altered and a kind of shapeless computer begins to form before them. Norman then realizes that Lucy is capable of altering reality, and is speechless at what he is witnessing. At that moment, Mr. Zhang maneuvers his assistant, who fires a missile launcher toward the room, causing all the police officers to jump for cover. However, before the missile hits her body, Lucy manages to teleport away, and now at 90% of her brain capacity, she jumps to various locations around the planet. After that, the woman begins to travel through different eras of time, even reaching the Cretaceous period. The problem is that the mutant ends up being seen by one of the dinosaurs, and teleports away from there, ending up in front of Lucy, the first female human being that ever existed in the world. When they meet, they both touch fingers, and in doing so, the mutant woman becomes able to see beyond planet Earth and witness the billions of years of history of the universe. At that moment, as Lucy reaches 99% brain capacity, Mr. Zhang enters the lab room and prepares to eliminate his enemy once and for all. However, before he could do so, the woman finally reaches 100% and disappears, angering the mobster, who points his gun at the professors. At the same time, Pierre appears and eliminates the big boss, saving the group's lives. Soon after, the computer created by Lucy delivers a kind of flash drive to Norman, and confused, Pierre asks where the woman is. At that moment, the man receives an alert on his cell phone and notices that the woman is communicating with him through the device, saying that she is everywhere. Knowing that they now possess all the knowledge in the universe, Norman is excited, and everyone listens to a final message from Lucy, who says that life was given to them billions of years ago, and now they know what they can do with it. Subscribe for more recap videos.